Morning, folks. Still racing around like mad trying to get as many wattles as I can this season. Man, you got to be quick. Blink and you miss them is the message. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, here in the Lucas Heights Conservation Area in Sutherland Shire, this particular species and this particular specimen here was absolutely stunning. And I've come back not even 2 weeks later, and I've pretty much almost missed it. But I think there's enough here to demonstrate it. But 2 weeks ago, it was an absolute showstopper. This is Acacia elongata. This is a swamp wattle. And it was sort of this branch in particular that was absolutely beautiful. They're now starting to fade. Just the flowers are starting to fade, but we can get a very good idea of the overall structure and the overall appearance, and that's probably enough. There's one over here. I'm just here in the early morning light. I think it's going to rain today. September 9, 2025. So to me, again, around here anyway, prime wattle time is August, pretty much, you know, the start of September, and I can see some already fading. Elongata, Fimbriata, Decurrens, and Myrtifolia is one I tried to make a video of yesterday, and that's faded already as well. That's going well and truly into the pod stage. But we can probably cover this one well enough. Elongata, it's very common through this area around Lucas Heights. I do pick it up in the Southern Highlands as well, in a lot of dry sclerophyll woodlands, although it's called the swamp wattle because it's known to grow in some areas where you might have a bit of impeded drainage. We're just in a scribbly gum and Gophricostata, Crimbia gomifera woodland here, but in this Lucas Heights area, it's sort of part of the Menai Plateau. There's no sandstone outcrop. It's sort of a continuous shale cap. So the soil's probably got a bit of impeded drainage. And that's where you can find elongata. You can find it on sandstone outcrop as well. It's a shrub to about 4 metres tall. It doesn't get too much bigger than that. It can be multi-stem sometimes. There's a few more over here. This whole area's had a little bit of regeneration and direct seeding, I think from previous quarrying. And there's a couple of unusual wattles here, which probably shouldn't be here. But elongata, it's known to grow all through this area. A lot of the time it's on the edge of the bushland as well. Here I'd say it's just taking advantage of the disturbance and direct seeded. The range of it goes, it's in Queensland and New South Wales. It just gets into Queensland. It's got a mostly coastal distribution. It just gets into Queensland around the Gold Coast area and possibly a little bit further west. It doesn't go further north than that. And then it comes down the New South Wales coast. Yeah, in New South Wales, it goes up and down the coast pretty much, down to about Eden in the far south coast of New South Wales. It goes a little bit west. I think the furthest up it gets is around Lithgow in the Blue Mountains. And I think there's sort of some patchy records generally around the Tamworth Armidale area, but it doesn't get much further west than that. In Victoria, it's naturalised. They've got a couple of established populations where it's naturalised, so it's a weed in Victoria. I don't think it's too serious a weed there, but it has established in Victoria. So that's the geographic range. We can probably use this one to look at the phyllodes. They're long and thin, and that's what elongata would refer to, just the long, thin phyllodes. The branchlets can be a little bit angular when they come on in the early stages. Sort of a bit like what we saw in Acacia suaveolens, a little bit angular, and then they go tubular. The phyllodes are allowed to be, the range is up to 17 centimetres, but they're usually about 14 centimetres. And about 7 mil long, though they're usually about 4 mil long. So up to 17 centimetres long, 7 millimetres wide. but they do get mostly reported as up to 14 centimetres long and 4 mil wide. And these guys in Lucas Heights, I reckon the phyllodes would be about, 2 millimetres wide, something like that. They're well and truly getting up to 10 centimetres or longer. That's what I typically see around here anyway. The phyllodes are reported as having one gland down at the base, and this might be a bit like Acacia linifolia. It might be a bit really hard to pick up, but there's meant to be a gland, yeah, probably that darker brown bit just there at the bottom. There's meant to be a gland somewhere down near the base of the pulvinus. I'm just going to have a second crack with another little phyllodes. Excuse my fingernails in these shots. Yeah, be down there at the bottom there. Yeah, there's the gland there down at the base of the phyllodes, just that dark brown structure. So there it is there. There might be a little mucro at the top, although I can't remember reading that in the description. Doesn't seem to be a mucro there. I'll just check another leaf. I'm not seeing a distinct, this one might have a little one. So I'm assuming the phyllodes have a little mucro as well, although maybe it's not that well defined, but there's a tiny little bit of callus tissue there, but not an overly distinctive mucro. But there is a little one there. And what they say about the leaves is they're meant to have sort of up to 3 prominent veins. 3 prominent veins if you look closely. It just gets really hard when these leaves are so narrow. But we might be able to just see it there. And I know the phyllode's a bit bent here, but up to 3 prominent veins running, longitudinal veins. You can see how they're sort of clustered along the stem. It sort of reminds me a bit again of, the foliage of something like Callistemon linearis or something like that. If you didn't see this in flower, you might think for a second it's something like Callistemon linearis. You might have to look for the glands on the phyllodes to tell yourself it's Acacia elongata, or tell yourself it's a wattle at least, yeah. I've just got one here that's still doing okay, and it'll give a better example of what they can look like. But geez, I really should have made a video on this one about 2 weeks ago. You can see here it's a little swampy depression. It's a little clay, sort of a clay liner going across this whole patch here. And it's very boggy after the rain we've had in August. But here's a slightly better one. But they are, unfortunately, they are a little bit past their best, but you can get a good idea of the flowers. The flowers are held very close to the stems, or the globular heads are held very close to the stems. You normally get 1 to 3 heads in a cluster, in an individual cluster, or up to 7. You can get a spray of 7 globular heads maximum coming out of the axils. It's hard to say whether they're actually joined onto the one structure or whether they're just individually coming out of a leaf axil, if you can see that there. Remember, on Acacia binervia, a much different wattle, but the spikes are sort of all coming out on the one branch. I'm just seeing here that they seem to be pretty much purely individual, just coming from the same point of origin from that leaf axil. I wouldn't mind breaking a few off just to have a look. Yeah, actually, when I look at these two, yeah, they are joined there at the base. You can see they're joined. So it looks like we've got technically a little branching cluster of globular heads, just a little spray, what I call them, or a cluster, or a little racemose group. And it looks like they are joined. You can have up to 7. You can have up to 7 globular heads, but it's usually 1 to 3. I just want to take this one as well, just for some more representation. You can just see, yeah, how they're sort of joined at this chunky bit of tissue down the bottom. And I think I just broke that third one off, but they're joined down the bottom and then they'll latch onto the stem. So technically they are sort of joined at the base in a little branching cluster is how I interpret it. The flower colour is a beautiful bright yellow. I would call it sort of the middle part of the spectrum, or maybe even getting towards the right of the darker tones. It's a real nice, bright, and sort of slightly deeper yellow. It's not really lemon yellow or cream. It's a genuine bright yellow, and the sun's gone now, and that might sort of alter the tones a bit, but just such a shame that I've missed it, really. I mean, I know I'm getting it in flower here and we can have a look, but 2 weeks ago they were just stunning, absolutely stunning. Yeah, just the one over there was a real showstopper. It was got everyone's attention when we walked past. Really fluorescent, deep yellow. And these guys have just faded. They've just faded way too much now. But gee, you got to be quick to get these wattles, and that's why I'm here today. No sign of any pod development yet. The pods are meant to be to 12 centimetres long, and I think about 5 mil wide. So they're pretty long and skinny. Yeah, about 12 centimetres and 5 mil wide, something like that. And there's no sign of any pods at the moment. But that probably does it justice for Acacia elongata. I'm kicking myself that I should have made the video a couple of weeks earlier. But you get the overall view anyway. You can see these ones are getting nice and tall. But geez, to think in 2 weeks that they've totally passed their prime and passed their best. But if you get out to the Lucas Heights area, just on the mountain bike tracks, come down the road, which comes down past the tip, and you can have a good look at these guys. They're also on the edge of the Lucas Heights sports fields as well. Just the furthest sports fields past the golf driving range to the north. There's a whole heap of them down the bottom of a batter slope below the soccer field there, going into the nice sandstone bushland.